What's up, solutionaries? We got started 30 seconds earlier than we normally would. For everybody that's coming in, thank you for subscribing to the channel. We're gonna have a very good conversation today. I want to kind of jump into it first before I introduce our guest. As y'all know, one of our earlier classes was in California. We went to Compton, and when you go to Compton in LA, our first Black Guns Matter class. Compton, as much love as we have and support for Compton, Compton can be pretty rough. And I noticed that a lot of people didn't want to come to Compton. And I usually do that. Whenever I'm coming to LA, I'll say, yo, I'm going. When people, like especially celebrities, reach out, I'll say, yo, meet me in Compton. And usually every time I'm in LA, I go to Nipsey Hussle's spot. A lot of times people won't really want to meet you there. But I've watched, our guest over the last, however many months at this point, damn near over a year, go to all of these places all over California. Not just, the fancy places, but which are necessary, but also places that aren't so fancy. And I quietly watched for a while, and I wanted to have the brother on in the midst of, the so-called assault weapons ban being overturned. And there's a stay on that right now. Obviously, that regime over there in charge over in Cali is going to fight against our constitutional right. But now we're at a time where that's been overturned. There's actual traction for the opportunity for some actual leadership that's in alignment with freedom and liberty. So I wanted to have our guest on, Major Williams. We're going to ask a few tough questions. We're going to ask and allow him to address things that float, as well as give our gun owning following an understanding of what his agenda is for the people of California as the next governor of that great state. So without further ado, everyone, our brother, Major Williams, how you doing there, good sir? How you feeling today?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. It's been extremely busy, so I really appreciate you taking time for having me on this platform today as well, man. So I'm looking forward to it.
For sure. Everybody that's coming in, hit the link, hit the like, whatever, the thing that y'all do, hit the thumbs up and all of that. If you have specific questions for Major, we doing this. All of the donations from this go to the work of Black Guns Matter. So type a super chat, save this, copy it. I know some of y'all are actually gonna be saving this to try to utilize it to attack this brother. And I'm gonna be very, very clear. Some of the things that I've saw have been very kind of like lame. He has to be professional. I don't. So I'm gonna be very clear. I will block the shit out of you. Y'all know that from the door. If it gets a little too spicy over there, but at the same time, we do want the tough questions. So if you have a more specific questions about legislation and his platform and things of that nature, do it. Two birds with one stone. Support the work that we're doing at Black Guns Matter with a super chat and things of that nature. So let's get to the first question. I got a list of them here. You've been traveling for about 13, 14 months now, all over the state of California, which, as somebody that's ran for a local office, having to go to all of one city when you're campaigning is a big deal. But California is a big state, and in that, over a year of campaigning, do you actually think that California is ready for a new governor? And if so, why?
Traveling, a lot of people don't understand how big California is, so running an election here is a lot different from a lot of different races. And not to say that every race is, not to say that other races aren't hard, because they are. But what I've realized by traveling and talking to people and just really actively listening is that there is a glimpse of opportunity, a glimpse of hope that can actually happen. And it's more so because of, I believe right now, everyone is unified in frustration to a certain degree. And what I've discovered is that, whether it's, religion, whether it's race, whether it's political party, the conversation is there because we all have similar or like pain points, right? And so that's the huge difference that I've been able to gauge across the entire state, which is one of the main reasons why we are the fastest rising candidacy in most recent history here in California. And it comes from just actually doing the actual work, but it is possible, and it's a small window of opportunity. But I will preface by saying it has to be with relatable leadership. It can't just be any individual. It's not about the richest candidate. It's not about the smartest candidate who's been doing this for years, or a career politician, or the most wisest. It's simply about relatable leadership. And the best way that I've connected, to be honest with you, is just by sharing my story, my journey, and my personal life experience, which people can relate to that.
So, this election being a little bit different because it's, and I want some people may not know of what a recall, election is. Can you explain that a little bit to people? Like what is the circumstances that are creating this space for people, in a recall election for, what is that to people that may not know?
So it's basically a tool that you can use as a voter if you're, if you feel some kind of way about your leadership. Under this pretense, it's the governor of California. So you're going to exercise certain rights. And so the goal was to get over 1.4, 1.5 million signatures. And that in itself would warrant or trigger a recall. And a recall is listed as a special election. So it's before the governor's election cycle is up, which is in 2022. So there's options within that. So we got 2.7 million signatures, verifiable signatures here in California. So it triggered a recall. The election date is September 14th, and you have two options when you go to that ballot. One is to say yes to recall the governor, and then you have a laundry list of candidates to choose from. Hopefully that's Major Williams. And then also no, but the goal is to get 50% plus one vote to recall the governor of California. So let's clarify for everybody. You guys needed, as someone that ran for council, I needed a certain amount of signatures to get on the ballot, right? Mm-hmm. We needed, I think, maybe, I don't know how many. We got 10,000 or something of that nature. However, you guys needed 1.5 million signatures. You got 2.7, and I want to be clear on that word that he said, y'all, verifiable. Yeah, right. During the pandemic.
During the pandemic. So you guys pretty much got almost double the amount needed, which speaks to there was almost 3 million Californians that said, we want Newsom gone, basically.
Right. Right. And the narrative that they tried to paint with it was a Republican recall. But what they don't tell you is that 39% of those recall signatures were Democrats as well, blended with libertarians, blended with first times, people participating in the political process as well, because it comes down to, as I said earlier, united in frustration across the entire state.
Right. So you speak of frustration. When I'm in Cali, first of all, California is an interesting place because it's so large. You got mountains, you got pretty much every type of thing geographically, landmass wise that you could potentially have. But so going in all over, traveling over California for speaking events and things like that, in certain places, I do see a lot of homelessness. Now, my first thought was like, it's because of the weather. It's warm, especially like in Southern California. Guys want to come. They kind of like the whole phrase like beach bums, right? Right. But it turned into something different over the last few years that I've been there. Why is this homelessness and the frustration along with it, right? Seeing a lot of homelessness. Why is this frustration? Why is this homelessness kind of spiraled? And what is something that you can do as a governor to kind of corral that in a different direction?
Well, one of the things that we had to do is get more informed on how it happened and why it's happening. And from our discovery and the data we looked at over the last 3 years, there's been $13 billion spent on homelessness here in California. Yet over the last 3 years, homelessness has risen 23%. And on a national scale, it's only went up 5%. And so we started to dig a little deeper, and then we just understand culture. We understand the mechanisms of how you do things as well. What I realize is that our government, including Governor Gavin Newsom, of course, they look at homelessness like a business versus a service. Anytime you look at something like that, like a business, there's no true incentive to actually, do the actual work, because there's a check waiting on you in that particular industry. And one of the ways as the next governor that we're going to combat it, first of all, change our mindset on how we look at it like a service versus a business, but the foundation has to change. And the foundation is mental health hospitals, drug and rehab facilities with accountability attached to it. And the third component is going to be wraparound services. And wraparound services are customized, tailor-made services per individual to help them get reacclimated back into society. And the reason why that's important, even more so than the first two, it's one thing to get cleaned up or get mentally stable, but if you have nowhere to go, then essentially you're going to end up right back in the exact same place. And that's just the foundation of it. It's complex, it's broad, and we're going to test a few different models throughout the certain regions of California where it's most needed. California, San Francisco, San Diego, and also in Fresno as well, to expedite it. And I believe if we do that, we're going to decrease homelessness in just a year and a half in California. In just a year and a half. It's possible.
That's interesting that you say $13 billion was spent, but it increased phenomenally. I mean, that's literally the conversation. We slightly make jokes about government and certain levels being incompetent. You actually spend $13 billion to solve a problem, and that actual problem gets worse. And so that actually ties into the reason why so many Californians were willing to sign that petition to get Newsom recalled in that regard. I want to touch on Newsom a little bit in that regard as well. During the so-called lockdowns of government overreach, we saw, and I don't know because I wasn't there, I didn't see it visually, but I saw reports of people sending me things saying that Governor Newsom made all of the other restaurants and wineries close, but his particular winery and things like that stayed open. Is there any truth to that? Is that a urban legend? Is there any factual backing to that story in California that you could speak to?
No, it's 100% true. It's the truth. He was caught at French Laundry, which is the name of his winery and his business, dining with other lobbyists and other friends in close proximity with no mask. And this, I believe, at that particular time when it happened, it was on the heels of him just doing a statewide interview telling us how important masks and how important social distancing is as well. And what really kind of got under my skin, even when he did a press conference to kind of apologize about it, his wording was, when I was sitting at that table at the restaurant, I thought to myself that I should get up and go home. I mean, it should have been when I was at my house. I knew I should have went to that particular place. So it just shows the psychology of how these individuals think and why we continue to be in this mess that we're in right now. At the end of the day, Governor Gavin Newsom has never built anything himself. So therefore, he can't govern and have empathy or even understanding with the actual people who have that experience of, having that dream or thought of a business and opening the door for the first day or cutting that ribbon or getting the first dollar and then working your butts off, not only just for your family, but for the people that are working with you also, to make sure that your staff is taken care of. He doesn't have that connection to understand that. Therefore, he couldn't govern that way. So his mindset was one size fit all. So it's most definitely true. It was rules for the, not for me, so to speak.
Yeah. What makes you, in your perspective, why should the people of California? I mean, we've had, not to be funny, but you give kind of Obama-esque vibes in regards to young, handsome, everything fits, right? We've kind of been taken advantage of before, and I say voters when I say we. Now, I don't mean just Californians. What is it that makes you different in that regard, and why should the people of California give you their vote to be the next governor of the great state of California?
I believe where we are right now in 2021, the people deserve an alternative. And if there's ever been a time to have someone to come in to kind of mirror who you are, I am that representative. Because if you look at my background, I'm not some world scholarly individual. I'm not like some multi-millionaire or billionaire. I was born and raised in a project, so I know what it feels like to go without. But I'm also the individual as an adult 44-year-old man today that could go to those urban areas because I'm from those urban areas and connect with them via messaging about my story, my upbringing, my journey, and what we can do together. Fast forward, I'm also the individual that can go and resonate through message with the soccer dads and the soccer moms, because that's who me and my wife hang out with our 3 boys. But from my experience in school and in real life as a marketing executive, I had the opportunity to add value in big companies with millionaires and billionaires. So that in itself gives me an array of an opportunity to kind of share my message from a broader perspective to connect with individuals. But at the same time, I used to be a rapper, right? I played sports, right? I used to be in gymnastics. I was in Fresno, in Clovis, California, and I was with a bunch of kids from my nonprofit, and I just caught the Holy Ghost in the vibe, and I did right? And I haven't done that like 20 years. But for people to see that kind of relatability, and they start to see themselves in you and say, I can do it. And the reason why I'm doing it is because when is the last time we've had someone that inspired us? People are always looking for people that can solve every problem, but sometimes you just need somebody that's going to motivate you, that wants to empower you. And I understand what this office is. Having a marketing background, I understand what leadership is. And leadership is being able to assess your pride and your ego, check it at the door, but also identify your strengths and your weaknesses. And where you are weak, get the appropriate people to help you administer the good that you're trying to do. So many people get caught up in thinking that the governor is the end all be all. They should come up with every ideal and they know everything. They sit at a desk, they just push buttons and make things happen. Well, that hasn't worked for us in decades, because we've selected individuals that we thought that could, govern in that way. So I'm saying I'm the alternative. If we are frustrated, as I feel like we are here in California, I am that alternative. It's a ability and being able to get the right people around you. And I think that's why we've been able to resonate and grow this campaign as exponentially as we have over the last 14 months.
Yeah. So everybody that's coming in, new folks that are coming in, we're here with Major Williams, candidate for, in my opinion, front-running candidate for state of California for the new governor position. He's running on a recall election. I want to make sure as you're coming in, you're hitting the thumbs up button, the likes and all of that. Ask questions. Again, if you have super chats, if you want to ask direct questions, do it in the super chat. We're not going to spend a whole bunch of time on every single statement. There's a few things that I kind of want to touch on, and I want to move around a bit. We just had a 30-year assault weapon ban, so-called assault weapon ban, overturned in California. There's a lot of people in California that want their Second Amendment rights respected. I kind of want to ask you, where do you stand on the Second Amendment in those constitutional rights? What is that perspective to you? What does that look like to you? Are you a gun owner? Would you push for California to be constitutional carry, which could come with some, to answer that question right now, could come with some pushback from a lot of, a more liberal voting base. So I know that might be putting you on the spot a little bit, but tell me your perspective on the Second Amendment and things of that nature.
Well, for me, it's preaching to the choir, and I never hold my tongue when it comes to the Second Amendment. I am a legal, registered gun owner. I enjoy hunting as well, and I'm most definitely going to fight for those for those restrictions here in our state. I don't know if you know this, we're one of the most restricted states when it comes to gun ownership here in California. They're taxing us for ammunition, red flag laws, etc. I believe in constitutional carry. I also believe that a gun state is a safer state. And I'm not saying that just because I am a gun owner and I would like to have that to protect my property, my family, and myself. I'm saying it because the statistics and data for other states who have carried out this shows that a gun state is a safer state. And overall, from a leadership perspective, I believe that a gun state or an individual with a gun is a deterrent, right? It's not to be the wild, wild west, everyone going out shooting up stuff. It is really the foundational aspect of what it was meant for in regards to the Second Amendment, to protect your family, to protect your property, to protect yourself. But also, I enjoy the sport of it as well. So when I go hunting, I enjoy that aspect of it as well. So with me, it really is preaching to the choir. I do not care about pushback when it comes to some things. I'm going to have a really hard stance on. And that's just where I stand when it comes to that.
So basically you're saying, hey, I want constitutional carry in California. I believe that that'd make Californians a lot safer. And how do you feel about repealing some of the actual restrictions that are already in existence? From what I'm hearing, and I'm distilling things because I know, I get to explain things a little bit more aggressively. Basically, you're saying I don't need those restrictions in our state. Now, is that a fair assessment of what I'm pulling from what you're saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing about it is, I think one of the things that we're going to implement is better education, a better education on, the use of guns and firearms, right? If you understand the psychology of it as well, that helps us mend that misinformation and bridge us to think collectively about what that represents or what that means when we're talking about our Second Amendment rights and the Constitution and the fact that we have a right, to bear arms. The whole purpose of it is to be able to protect ourselves from the government at the end of the day, right? We see certain, regimes in certain countries when the guns are taken out of the equation. Look at what they're faced with now, present day, right? So there's so many proponents a part of it, but I think the education part of it is to navigate those waters once we get to that point.
Right. So now we're talking guns. Now we're talking about constitutional rights. California is known for, a lot of people smoke. Now, I'm not saying I smoke or I don't smoke. What I'm saying is a lot of people in the state of California do. That's been an area where there's been high levels of incarceration for nonviolent offenses, as well as, obviously that's unconstitutional. But the other caveat is if you do participate in this particular freedom in the state of California, hey, I have the right to, smoke weed for whatever your reasons is, cannabis, right? You forfeit federally, you forfeit your ability to, because, 44, and I think Schumer just is about to present some decriminalization bill, for the federal level. But currently, as it stands, you run the risk of, making you choose between two particular freedoms. And I believe that adults can do whatever they want to do, as long as it's not infringing on anybody, else's body or property. Now, we talk about guns, we talk about California. What's your stance on cannabis legalization, supporting federal legalization, decriminalization, which are, two different things? Do you think one leans into the other? What's your position on cannabis, especially, more specifically individually, but as it relates to gun ownership? And I want to add to that because obviously I have to be clear because sometimes people get goofy. Just because you are a proponent for cannabis does not mean that we're saying, hey, smoke and then go grab guns and go outside. That's not what we're saying. So I need to say that to clarify for folks so they don't try to put words in your mouth or mine. But what is your position on, cannabis as it stands for the people of California? Obviously, it's already, legal there. But on the federal level, tell us your perspective and more specifically, how it relates into firearms ownership.
Sure. So I would support, legislation on a federal level when it comes to marijuana, simply because I've had the opportunity to explore through conversation, to explore with some of the things that we want to do under the Restore California plan. One of the main reasons why I would support it to a certain degree is that I feel like the tax revenue from it is going to help us stimulate our economy, help us with affordable housing, and also use the influx of those funds for a homeless crisis here in our state as well too. I'm selfishly going to use the marijuana industry for good. I believe that, there are so many more opportunities when it comes to that. And you hit it on the head when you said, the decriminalization of it as well. There's so many individuals that are serving time for like low-level crimes when it comes to that. It's something that I don't agree with also. But from a federal perspective, I believe that, I would support, the federal. I think you said Chuck Schumer is doing something here recently. It's something I definitely would support. But it's been on the table for a good while, and everyone has been trying to find that particular balance. But my stance and my position on it has been very clear. I'm open to explore opportunities when it comes to marijuana, simply because I want to utilize the revenue from our transactions or interactions for good, affordable housing, the homeless crisis, and for some of the infrastructure issues. Because the more new revenue that California has, that gives us an opportunity to revisit lowering taxes in our state, which are extremely high.
So for everybody that's coming in, we're talking to Major Williams, candidate for governor of California. As you come in, make sure you hit the like button. If you have questions, do the super chat thing, so forth and so on, so we can ask some of these questions. And we'll also do a slight Q&A at the end of this. So back to the cannabis thing.
Yeah.
I think that the challenge there is, we have a bunch of, men, by and large, black and brown men in jail. You had Kamala Harris a while ago that didn't want to let, guys doing Fed time and things like that out because in essence, and I may be paraphrasing a bit, in essence, they needed the free criminal labor. What's your position on that in regards to guys that have been convicted of cannabis charges? Do you see those guys like coming home? Do you think that, we're talking about non-violent offenders because of cannabis. What's your position on that? Do you think, because California does need some revenue in that regard, but do you think that's a good place to pull that revenue from from those guys that are still in jail for non-violent, cannabis possession offenses?
No, I think it's an unfair situation, but I also think that there's an opportunity to create a path for those individuals to exit out of those circumstances, meaning, for a low-level crime offensive that's nonviolent, I believe that there's some opportunity for us to get those individuals released and reacclimated back into society. And one of the main reasons why I push for that is because of the family unit. And a lot of people don't talk about that. Some of these, I grew up in a single-parent household. I don't have a relationship with my father. I don't know my father, right? And that's what this has triggered across our entire nation and specifically here in California as well. So yes, it's something I would advocate for as the next governor of California because of that particular proponent. But I want to make sure that we have something in place, no different than the wraparound services with the homelessness model that we're using as well. So it's one thing to get those individuals out, but we need to have a path for those individuals also, something that they can attach to, which is another proponent of really marketing and pushing trade opportunities, whether it be barbers, whether it be welders, plumbers, electricians. We need to know how to make a buck cool again and understanding that hard work is okay. And those things can be available for those individuals once they get out.
Right. See, these, and again, y'all, to everybody that's coming in, we're talking to Major Williams, candidate for election for the state of California for governor. Come in, smash the like button and all that other stuff. We're talking about cannabis. We're talking about guns. We're talking about the plan for California. We're talking about reversing the homelessness potentially, and with all things considered and going well within a year and some change, year and a half. But we haven't necessarily talked race. We've had this conversation. I try to have the conversation about race. Not that it's a dominant concept in regards to, well, we have to. But I noticed when I started promoting some of your things, I've seen a lot of the infighting in regards to Black conservatives. I am of the belief that some of these people that identify as Black conservatives are not very much conservative at all. I think that they are they're selling a packaging to some conservatives that want to say a thing but they can't. So I think they use their Blackness as kind of like a shield to justify, hey, white person, you can say this now because I said it. And I think that sells a lot of tickets and things like that. And it's also created a form of like infighting, right? Or maybe they're not conservative, so maybe we can't even call it infighting. But for lack of a better term, we've called it infighting. Tell me your position on that. Is this just, from my perspective, am I just looking at it and it's just people struggling around concepts that happen to be Black and conservative? Or is it actually infighting, and is it actually good for our movement and getting conservative values and principles in these demographics that clearly we need to be the most?
I believe it's a huge distraction. Yes, infighting is happening. It does occur. But it comes back to, I believe I watched a video of you a while back, and you talked about one thing about, just being consistent, right? Just be consistent in regards to agreeing and not, we can agree to disagree, so to speak, right? And that's okay, right? We may find something else that we have a commonality on as well. And I think what's happening right now, certain conservatives are adopting certain liberal behavior that is, lacks tolerance, so to speak. And everything that I've tried to be is just a person, just a human being, and just knowing that we're not perfect. We're ever evolving every single day. I am a bona fide Christian. I'm a family guy. I have a past like everyone else. I'm a developing individual. I'm growing every single day. I'm grateful and appreciative every day I have opportunities to connect with people. But what I see from a lot of Black conservatives, as far as the infighting, I think it's divisive. I think it's a waste of time. It doesn't exude power. For me, it's low vibrations, and so oftentimes I don't really get a chance to say anything because I just have a different walk. I have a different faith. And I believe in what I'm doing, regardless of any missteps. I believe in what I'm doing because the foundation of it is I love California. California has given me everything, the struggles, the pains, the scars, but it's also given me the opportunity to grow in love, to understand what a family is, to build with one woman for over 20 years. It's given me all those inflections in life. And so I'm just a grateful person. I'm not ever saying that I'm a perfect person. And I believe some of these individuals, when you have those hiccups, it feels like they were always just waiting for the, aha, I told you so moment. And not knowing behind the curtains, they may actually have those things, but it's just not on the front street yet or whatever. So I think it's unfortunate. I think it's very unfortunate that we're immaturely playing this psychological word game, and then we're tricking our audience to believe that these things really matter when they don't matter. Right. And hopefully at some point a light will go off with these individuals, and they'll understand us working together expedites any opportunity for us to do the most good. And that's what it's really about at the end of the day.
Right. Huge shouts to Latina Hunter. $5 super chat says, both of y'all move to Georgia and be Georgia mayor and or Atlanta mayor, please, Lord. So one, absolutely not. I love the people of Atlanta. I'm not moving to Atlanta. Y'all, it's way too packed. Y'all got way too many people in a short space in Atlanta. So thanks for that, Latina Hunter. You're being very gracious, and I don't have to be. Who I am, I'm not running for office right now, and maybe this will come back to bite me later. I honestly, and as I've watched, I've seen some of these individuals, and I get to say their name and things of that nature. I won't now because it's irrelevant. But the people listening and the people that'll watch this a little bit later know exactly who the goofies are. I think that they're using your name to clout chase. That's just what I think. I think that lately, now people that see like the heavy lifting has been done. Okay, we've had damn near 3 million signatures, verifiable signatures to trigger a recall election. They were very quiet and me stepping back and watching, right? It's no different than when I, running for city council, when I went to go collect signatures. I got more signatures than needed just in case, the Democrats decided to say, we're going to challenge your signatures. Now, the things that I'm talking about right now, if you never ran for political office or aren't informed in that process, you may not know how that goes. But we needed this amount. I got this amount just in case. Now, I anticipated some people jumping out of the woodwork, and I think, fortunately, they didn't with the signature scenario, because I would have played them, or they just didn't think the Libertarians were going to have a viable candidate for city council, whatever. In your scenario, what it looks like to me, stepping back and watching for this amount of time, it's they waited to see if the recall would happen and be triggered. After the signatures were verified, then they throw their hat in the ring. They waited for other people to do a lot of the work. Then they show up Johnny come lately. That's my view. I think that now, because you've done that year and some change of work, it looks to me, and I could be wrong, I don't think that I am, It looks to me that like now everybody's trying to throw their hat in the ring, and they have the people that are kind of clout chasing in that regard have relationships with people that want to come Johnny come lately. So instead of getting behind you and the work that you've already done, I think it's easier they have a vested interest in potentially trying to attack you and gain clout off of that. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge some of the so-called, and I have to say so-called controversy. I say so-called because I know how filings work when you run a campaign. Right. I know, that, people will say, oh, this happened. Mind you, the body that's responsible, we're seeing it with Kimberly Klacik in Baltimore. The FEC has had her paperwork for damn near a year at this point. You don't get to raise $8 million running as a Republican in a democratically dominated area. The FEC not raise $8 million and the FEC have your paperwork and not come holler at you about that. That's not how that goes. So I think there's a lot of clout chasing in that regard with a lot of these people. And to be quite honest, some of the people running have done nothing. I know nothing about them other than down talking the actual community. So that's me, and I went on a bit of a tangent there because I see that in all of these different worlds, in the Second Amendment community world, in the libertarian world, so forth and so on, and I get to say that. That's my opinion. I don't have to be as professional in this regard. You know what I'm saying? Why are they? In my words, maybe not yours. You may want to use a different one. Why do you see it the same way? And if so, why do you think they're using you for that clout and trying to kind of like ride your wave a little bit? Why do you think that's the case?
Well, I believe it's a part of the traditional process. If you remember or, look at history back when Gray Davis was recalled and Arnold Schwarzenegger won, I believe there was over 100+ candidates at that particular time. So there's a lot of different variations on what's happening. One of them, this is just a thing to do for some people, right? I myself would never sacrifice or waste my time doing anything if I felt like I was going for a victory or if I could win and make a true impact. There are individuals in this race that we know absolutely cannot win, from name recognition, from presence, from connecting with voters, from even raising money. It just doesn't exist. Some individuals got 2,000-3,000 followers overall total, but yet they're going to win in California. It doesn't make sense. But what we did realize a certain trend that was happening. A lot of the D-list type of candidates, everyone used me as a springboard to launch their campaigns. And we started to see a common trend. And they would use specific keywords to trigger people with certain content. It was never anything new. It was the same type of content and rhetoric every single time, because in the conservative bubble, so to speak, those are trigger points for those individuals. And if we can get a percentage of them to turn on Major, because for a whole year, I can't admit, I walked on a bed of roses. I couldn't do any wrong. It was like, I was out there working. People respected it. But once the work was done, I was responsible for a lot of recall booths. I'm responsible for thousands of signatures. It's a small fraction of what all the thousands of volunteers and organizers did, but I participated. I was part of promoting that, using my platform, using my resources to go out there and do the actual work. All the other trials that was happening, I was attending those trials as well for the lawsuits against Governor Gavin Newsom. So it may be one of those things where, and we kind of tried to process it, me and my wife, jealousy exists in all industries. And one thing I didn't do when I came into this, I didn't ask for permission. I didn't ask for permission to exist. I didn't have to stand next to anyone for an endorsement. I built this base by being myself, when so many others, they can't do that. They can't build it by being themselves. And I believe you made a reference on another video. These people, even the elected officials and some of these candidates, they were never the cool kids. I make a reference when I'm doing my speeches sometimes that I'm a lion. And oftentimes I see other candidates, they profess that they are lions and their chest is out. But behind closed doors, in rooms with other lions, they turn kitty cats.
Right.
And I remain a lion. And it's like, what have you done to have that type of mentality and confidence in yourself? Because God led, and I just believe in myself, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's happening over and over again. These people with low vibrations, low confidence in themselves, so they use this fake bravado, and they want to tear this individual down. And gee whiz, if I make a mistake, oh, they're just going to pounce on that and just make that universally who I am. When we know that that's not true. And I know a lot of Californians or people are waking up. Smear campaigns are real. They exist. It's a part of it. But we have to continue to push forward no matter what. So I see the, what do you call them? Johnny's come latelys or whatnot. Yeah, I see them. They exist, man. And I think a lot of people are onto it. But at the same time, it is a distraction. It is somewhat frustrating. I just have faith, and I just continue to walk my walk.
100%. Freedom Over Everything says, let Major know his donation and volunteer link is currently not available. Thank you for that, Freedom Over Everything, for the $10. I bet you after this live, that thing will be back on if that's the case. And maybe check your browser too. Just make sure everything's cool. For everybody that's coming in, we're talking to Major Williams, candidate for governor of California. New fresh face that needs to happen. Fresh face to some. But again, I've seen him on social media for some time now doing the work. Again, you're being very gracious. Even with me promoting you, right, over the last few days, putting up a flyer, chopping it up, I got reached out to by some of your opposition. And I'm gonna be frank. I've started to collect a lot of the facts and proof and evidence that there is a small contingency, some more popular conservatives that are actually starting to sabotage the conservative movement within. Not because they, are in league with liberals, but just because, like you said, the jealousy component. So I've started compiling a lot of that stuff to kind of like put it together and show people like, look, these are the people that are being highlighted, but these people actually are attempting to stifle other conservatives, especially Black conservatives. Okay. So these people reached out to me. Like from your perspective, does that, and not necessarily such a polished answer, does that annoy you? Does that bother you? And what keeps you, because I've yet to see you really spaz out. Again, when I say Obama-esque, what I mean by that is not policy-wise. What I mean is a symbol. I think that President Obama and his family were a great symbol for people. Symbol doesn't mean legislation. I'm going to be very clear about that. You're saying, hey, I've been with the same woman for 20 years. I think that's a symbol that's a conservative value. So in that sense, I used to say when Obama ran, I was like, man, I couldn't have done that because I would have already slapped the shit out of somebody. I would have, for a lot of the things that they're doing, so even me being reached out, by your opposition, how have you been? Does it bother you? Does it frustrate you? And how have you been able to maintain a certain level of calm in this, in this foolishness? Because like you said, this is a relative new thing that I'm noticing in regards to it being turned up a bit, because like you said, for some time, you was on a bed of roses just being able to just do the work. So does this bother you? And if so, how have you been able to maintain calm in that regard?
I mean, it's something that definitely has my attention, which has, put me in a place to where I'm definitely going to give them their appropriate attention as well. But I do believe in chess. I believe that, especially as a Black man, as a Black candidate, everyone wants me to be the angry Black man, and they want me to spaz out. They want me to lose my cool. They want me to be, lose my temper, so to speak. And for me, it's kind of like, I don't believe that they're that talented enough to win against me, to get that from me. When I say they exist in low vibrations, I don't exist where they are. I feel like it's something that's purely no talent and evil. Anytime anyone has to tear someone else down in order to pull themselves up, I think it's cowardly. And it tells me that they don't have a platform or a real vision or a strategy. And I would never follow them from a leadership perspective. And I believe that a lot of people are going to catch on, because this has been going on for several months now. And what they continue to see is me continue to elevate, continue to do well, no matter what they do. A percentage of people have probably turned their backs on me based upon, false allegations, misguided information, false narratives. But at the end of the day, that's me showing my G card because I don't care. Like, I absolutely don't care. I believe in my worth and my talent and what I'm able to do with my message and the plan that I have for our state. And my philosophy mindset was either I'm going to win or I'm going or already won, right? And so at some point in time, they're going to get all the attention that they want. Mind you, as I said, I am cut from a different cloth, but I have 3 sons that are looking at me as well, that I'm pouring into every single day. And it's a challenge. Absolutely. I would love to do some of the things I see other people snap back and do as well. But
it's fun. I can't hold you. It's fun.
When I tell you, I love this state, and I know that there's an opportunity there to present something that this state has never had before, right? And it's not just because it's me, but I know what my connection has been across this entire state. I've never seen a candidate visit me or go out there and do the work that we've been able to do over 14 months. But yes, to answer your question, it's amazingly frustrating because I do have hands.
These are the things that the people want to know. Kimberly Stewart said we're all in for Major Williams. Thank you, Kimberly, for that super chat. I really appreciate, man. I have a tendency to I can be Petty Murphy, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, like Petty Spaghetti, because I know that right now, outside of the work at Black. So if somebody asked me that same question in regards to a firearms instructor talking bad about me, I would completely respond the same way. We might have some fun about it, make a joke here and there, but it wouldn't get much of my attention. And I appreciate you maintaining that high road during a time when things are so critical. You've been to be able to generate the energy for 3 million Californians saying, "Hey, we're tired of this guy. We're tired of Newsom. We don't want this guy anymore." And you being able to capitalize on the work that you've been able to do and stay focused on task, I think is a true testament again of a leadership role or a leader. And so I thank you for that, man, because it also inspires me to maintain that in my walk as well. So I appreciate you for that. So lastly, because I know you got a lot of stuff to do. To me, from what I see as a person that has ran for a local office, these accusations seem baseless to me. They come up in areas where it's like bots and things of that nature. So from my perspective, I don't really have a hard question to ask you. That's a legitimate question because I already know the answer. Just because of the simple fact that I ran for office. Now, again, obviously the state of California is bigger, which to me says that the scrutiny would be even larger. So, I mean, if you want to address some of that, cool. If not, we can, just tap out. Or I really kind of want to end on letting the people know your vision and where they can go to support and get behind your work and how they can help. I think that's much more impactful because, I mean, it would be pretty much just be like clickbait, me even asking that type of question. But I already know the answer. I legit, like, you know what I'm saying? It becomes like, nah, bro, that's not how that goes. Like, how this goes is this process. So, if you can, as we close out, just let the people know where they can come support, where they can actually lend energy and your vision and how they can continue along with that vision for Californians.
Absolutely. So, well, first of all, I want to tell you thank you again for giving me the opportunity to come on your platform and share with your audience, man. You've done a lot of great work. You've actually educated me a lot as well. I'm working on my pull out and everything. And but I just want to tell everyone, continue to follow us on this journey. What we're doing is absolutely historic. It is something that's been very impactful. It's been something that has allowed me to mature in this political process. It has allowed me to just learn on the go, so to speak. And we need warriors. This is just not a statewide race. As California goes, so does everyone else. We're the trailblazers for the incubator for how everything else happens after what happens here in California. And so I would say just continue to help us build our army by helping us get our names out there. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that we're shadow banned. I've lost 10,000 followers in 3 months. And so continue to follow me if you don't follow me there at Major Williams to learn more about me, my policies, some of the stances that I have. We also have an amazing Q&A section on my website, which is majorforgovernor.com. Someone mentioned that the donor link was down. We are doing maintenance to the site over the next 2 days. So by midnight tonight, that will be back up. So if you are donating or thinking about it, please donate. The more that we have, the more active that we can continue to be out there in the streets, connecting with real voters. Just continue to reach out to us, Team Major at majorforgovernor.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you. For sure. I appreciate you, my brother. I'll hit you offline. I'm gonna be over in Cali in a little bit as it gets closer to make sure I continue to lend energy because I believe in your platform. I've watched you work for over a year at this point. And I just want to say thank you for staying in the fight, my brother. I appreciate you.
Hey, man. Thank you so much, man. Take care.
All right. Peace.